pick a different offlaner than the Phoenix.
Oh, there it is.
This is something we didn't at all touch upon. The fact that
this is
Tosca
the
went
hero of the
through
month.
fan phase.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it before the show started. You guys were all talking about, well, toss VP going with the toss, but now it went all the way through to the very last pick, and VP said, well, it's still there, might as well pick it up. So we have the lineups, and we're seeing some question about Alliance. I mean, exactly where are they going to put that Phoenix and the Clockwork? How are they going to swap it out? But on the side of Virtus Pro, we didn't get a full chance to review it, but we're going to find out as we jump into the game. So, ladies and gentlemen, opening match of ESL One Frankfurt is about to kick off between VP and Alliance. So take it away, boys, on the stage.
That's right, guys. Super excited for this ESL One Frankfurt 2015. And we're starting off our very first match. Myself, Austin Walsh, known as the Capitalist, joined by my good friend and a better co-caster you couldn't ask for, William Lee, also known as Blitz. Blitz, you excited for this game, man?
I'm incredibly excited. For one, they picked Stormsurge for PyCat. That alone gets me pretty excited. The Bloodseeker pickup as well. I think both of these lineups, you're going to see a lot of action early. I think both teams kind of picked into each other in some ways, and so I feel like we're going to have a good game. At the very least, I feel like it's going to be kill heavy.
I feel like, especially since it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing any action early here, I want to talk to your thoughts on these pickups. First of all, the Bloodseeker, very interesting one. We've seen some success out of the Bloodseeker just recently. Alliance specifically, though, the last time they ran Bloodseeker, it didn't actually work out so well for them. It was in the TI qualifiers, the one time that they've run it, and it was a loss. What do you think about Bloodseeker in this meta?
I actually feel like, especially for this game, it's going to be incredibly strong because more than the synergy with the Clockwork, I feel like it has incredible synergy with the Phoenix. For example, you throw down the Rupture onto the Shadow Fiend, it'll go through his BKB, you throw down the Egg at the same time, and it's kind of, no matter what happens, Alliance should have the advantage in the team fights.
Right.
Should have the advantage is the kind of point we want to make, but the things that'll screw them up is Illidan with the Silencer. If he gets a good global silence off, I feel like it completely shuts down Alliance's plan.
Yeah, Silencer, both as a support as well as a carry, is kind of a bane of a Phoenix's existence. Now, we started things off, a Bounty Rune going the way of both of the mids, nothing special there, and we also see that both mids are going to be feeling a little bit of extra support from both Ake and FNG. FNG went to the early block in order to try and help the SF get that extra advantage, and they're both only going to be leaving one support to zone out the offlaner. Now, Admiral Bulldog is a Clockwork on a Dire side. This is a huge advantage for a Clockwork, right?
Yeah, just because you can force out the block, and in this mid lane, I think they actually picked the Phoenix more to zone out the SF as well. I think it's a really good straight counter where you force the SF to use his BKB preemptively and then just kind of force him back because he can't really do anything with the Egg. Like, you don't want to spend your time hitting the Egg. I think you want to just pop your BKB, get your ultimate off, and try to deal damage, but the Phoenix kind of stops that, and I think that was kind of a response pick by Alliance.
Now you can see Ake is actually now moving over to the side. It might just be that DK Phobos gets caught here. He's level 2 and does have the Snowball. Let's see what he can do with this one. Snowball onto Ake, trying to run himself away. The cast hits once, but doesn't bounce to him again. Unfortunately, even with 3 heroes now in this lane, I was going to mention this earlier, but it seems like they just won't have the damage to zone out DK Phobos as the Tusk.
Yeah, the level 1 Fire Spirits aren't very strong. Ake was in a really good position, but Loda just immediately says, this isn't going to happen, goes back to farming. I think that was the correct choice, but both supports just went mid to try to help out the early game. For example, Shadow Fiend absolutely needs early souls, and he's already off to such a great start, and this is such a Shadow Fiend favored matchup. Like, PyCat's really going to struggle if he wasn't able to win the early game, and that's what it looks like, but he does have the jungle to fall back on. But I think Radiant side, Shadow Fiend especially, is so strong because you can stack for yourself.
Yeah, you've got the medium and the hard camp both being pretty accessible. FNG just running on through. We'll pick up the Haste Rune and the Bounty Rune at the top lane, and also puts a little pressure on that middle lane at the same time. DK Phobos once again playing this very far forward, trying to get some of that CS through the ice shards, and also getting a bit of damage on load. Of course, that's not going to matter too much. If you say that this matchup is so heavily favored to the SF, what's Alliance's plan? Is it just entirely on Bloodseeker and Clockwork to rotate and gank?
I think at some point what you should do is the Bloodseeker goes to the jungle, both supports rotate, and PyCat also just goes to the jungle and tries to look for pickoff opportunities, because if you initiate with the Storm Surge, it's still really strong against the Silencer. It's just when you try to initiate anywhere else on the map and you give time for the global silence to be set up, then things get a little bit tricky.
All right, we beat DK Phobos, headed back to base. He does have his boots as well as the stout shield, so again, just looking to regen up. Does he try and gank pre-level 6, though? The Tusk is one of those few offlaners who can actually pull that off, right?
I feel like he should just go to the mid lane and try to attempt something. He's got boots. G's got level 2 raise. I think what he should do is wait for G to get level 5, so he gets the level 3 raise off. You get 2 raises off, and you should be able to kill the Storm Spirit. And he's actually spotted by this ward, so there should be no attempt coming anymore. He just kind of sees the scenario. And the reason he does that is because the lane is pushing in right now. There isn't a really good opportunity, and Pycat should be safe from this.
Yeah, Pycat push back once again. The 4-minute rune is coming up, but it looks like DK Phobos. He's planning on sitting on that top rune to be able to secure it, and you could already see where bottom FNG is doing something similar here. So total rune control being opted here for Alliance, both times now, both the 2nd and 4th minute rune. You could see already some stacking going on. Ake stacking up that hard camp, as we mentioned. The Storm Spirit wants to be able to utilize that one. Meanwhile, DK Phobos, so he found himself a regen, but obviously wants to pass it off to G, also known as God.
Yeah, and he's doing such a good job right now with the Shadow Fiend in the mid lane, and he hasn't even hit up the jungle yet, and I think that's one of the strongest sides of the Radiant side, Shadow Fiend. Like, he's actually just going to go steal this stack, and this is pretty big for Pycat because he's already losing this lane. He's going to lose this stack as well, and Phobos is actually going to get some experience off of this, and that's a pretty big... I mean, it's only a 2-stack, but at the same time... If you're a Storm Spirit, you need every little bit that you can.
Yeah, and even just the added factor of like FNG then rotating into the middle lane, even though it was like 2 CS, he still managed to pick up the full experience for that one while the 2 cores were away. So that felt like just a very well-crafted maneuver by VP. Just one of those small things you can do in the laning phase. Obviously, we still have yet to see our first blood, which is a bit surprising, but it primarily comes down to the fact that both the offlaners feel pretty comfortable positioning themselves very aggressively. You can see Admiral Bulldog is doing so right now. He's sitting at half HP, but doesn't look like FNG is really going to be able to catch him out.
Yeah, he doesn't have the angle on him, and Bulldog's just trying to waste time, but the downside to both the offlane heroes right now is that they can't really go to the jungle, and so they have to kind of static these lanes to at least get their level 6. One thing I am a little bit concerned about for VP's lineup is the silencer. Once the Clockwork hits level 6, I think he's really susceptible to ganks because you can't go to the jungle. Like, what Loda will do is give up his lane when he hits a decent amount of farm, like you see him right now, and he's just going to give the lane to Mad because the Phoenix needs levels. And so I think VP are going to struggle to do the same. So what they should do is FNG soaks up mid, G just goes to the jungle, farms out the jungle as fast as he can with raises, and just give one of your supports solo XP, because right now it's going to be really difficult for the silencer to go anywhere but a lane.
Right, so what do they do with the silencer item-wise in that case? If it's going to be a big threat of the Clockwork, you also have Bloodseeker with quite the nice single target lockdown, as well as the Storm Spirit. Feels like a lot of pressure is going to be put on the silencer, who's rather squishy. Where does he go with that? Does he just try and stat build up as much as possible and create himself a nice tanky early game hero? Does he try and go 4-staff for some added mobility? Doesn't feel strong versus the Bloodseeker, but it may help against the Clockwork.
The problem with the silencer core right now is that it counters the Phoenix really well, and at top, Pycat actually is going to make a move. This should be first blood.
Yeah, quite easily. DK Phobos, he knows he is very, very down. And Pycat walking away with the first blood. You can hear the crowd. They love it.
He absolutely needed that, because if you look at the CS alone, that's fantastic. You got first blood, but at the same time, G's already at 60 CS at 6 minutes. He's almost getting 10 a minute.
3 times the CS of this poor Storm Spirit. And a lot of it comes back down to that simple maneuver where they took away the jungle. Now Pycat's left with just single pulls to be able to try and utilize.
Yeah, and so you notice they did do what we talked about. FNG has rotated to this mid lane, and Bulldog, I mean, this is a hero that needs a lane, and so Pycat's just going to farm out the jungle, but this is going to be more efficient for the Shadow Fiend, and so Alliance, they're going to have to start getting active once...
Or DK Phobos, he's going to be caught out again here. The snowball will save him for the time being, but the silence is already laid out preemptively, and Phobos even runs forward to make sure he's hit by that silence, but Loda is now pushed back by Lil. This is the biggest situation. Oh, Loda actually dropping quite low there, but the ice shards. If he had actually gotten an entrampment there, that could have been an easy kill for VP, but unfortunately, DK Phobos just slightly off the mark.
Yeah, and even G rotated up there to try to get a kill.
Oh, middle lane, no, FNG's going to be caught. Admiral Bulldog wanted to join in on this one. Pycat has very little mana left, but he's going to commit it to go for the kill on FNG. Now the cogs push back onto Illidan. He still got off the silence here on Pycat. Admiral Bulldog with a TP away, but Pycat, he's completely stranded at this point. He's hoping to be able to deny himself to the hard camp, but can he actually pull it off? The jump way over the cliff, he's good. Oh, the supports are coming in for the side. FNG, one race, is it going to be enough? He got it.
Pycat couldn't get to the hard camp fast enough, and God will walk away with the kill, even if it costs them quite amount of time.
And if you're FNG, you're so happy that that just happened. You forced 2 rotations, you made the Storm die, and Storm's a hero that if you're behind in CS, you have to get kills, and you have to get away. You can't trade 1 for 1. You need your hero to snowball off of kills as much as you can, and right now it's G, the one doing that, as he gets a solo kill on the Storm Spirit, and he just continues to snowball. He's got 68 CS, a kill on the Storm Spirit by himself, and it doesn't look like he's stopping anytime soon.
So what's the build for this game? Do you try and go for the early stats of SNY? How often is this BKB? Like, what timing are we looking for?
I think going for the BKB first is okay. I would actually prefer to go for something like, maybe even the mech would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it actually looks like he's going to opt to go for the mech, yeah. And I think this is a good idea because Alliance don't have enough burst damage to take him down, because typically that's the counter to the SF mech, right, is that you just burst him down before he can do anything, and he can't really efficiently use it. But with the way this game is going, and having a silencer as your 1 position, you have to snowball as hard as you can.
You can see Alliance feel that pressure because they want the gank on middle. Already taken out FNG, and look where God is. He's stuck on the side. Admiral Bulldog, he couldn't get it! Oh no, the battery assault didn't stop him, and that's success for VP. That was a lot committed, and all they got was a kill on FNG, and maybe a tower here. Loda trade off the head tower hits, he almost goes down, but Buddha Restoration will keep him alive. Maybe the snowball almost catching up DK Phobos. Can't get there just yet, and now he's in the middle of 5 heroes. DK Phobos will fall. Here comes the rest of VP, though. Looking to be able to slow down Admiral Bulldog. He's got double slows on him for now, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to catch up. Admiral Bulldog will just TP away, and the rest of VP will not be able to find a kill. TP's out on all sides of Alliance, and they do get themselves away, even if they couldn't claim that tower.
The one downside, as you saw to VP's lineup, is their only real initiation is that snowball. They don't really have a lot of follow-up, and so I think the correct idea for VP is to try to 5-man as early as you can. Just get a stat item early on for Illidan. I think even something like a Rod of Atos before anyone on Alliance can get a BKB is probably the right idea here, because you want a long-range initiation, and actually the Atos is really good for that in the early game.
Sure. And the Vit booster obviously will help you out quite a bit in survivability against these single-target-oriented heroes like the Clockwork, Bloodseeker, and Storm Spirit. Here comes that snowball. Admiral Bulldog throws out the cogs, but the snowball runs right through it. And DK Phobos and FNG will pick up another kill, and this also means FNG almost has his level 6.
Yeah, and once he gets that, it's going to be so hard for Alliance. I mean, you don't want to give up the egg. You don't want to give up anything that the Storm can give. And something like a Rupture as well would kind of just ruin Alliance's life. And G just continues to farm out. I think the timing is to get the mech as soon as you can. Just try to get level 6 on everybody if you're VP, and then start going aggressive. Like, you can 5-man really easily once Lil hits level 6.
Yeah, as opposed to like Alliance, who went for, you know, that 3-man aggressive smoke gank where they rotated into the jungle and through to mid. It feels like DK Phobos and the rest of VP really just have to sit back on their side of the map and focus on farming. Maybe gank up that off lane or mid every once in a while, but ultimately the game kind of drawing out to a static pace is more beneficial to VP just purely because of farm reasons, right?
Yeah, and I really like Loda's build here. He opts to go for the Blade Mail, and I think this kind of signifies that Alliance is ready to get into those early game engagements. And if you take a look at VP's lineup, there's not a whole lot that they can do against this Blade Mail, so I think this is a really good choice by Loda, and a 3-man smoke gank. Pycat's naturally moving down towards the rune, and so this shouldn't tip off VP at all. Like, they think he's just going to go for the rune here. This should open up the jungle for Alliance and kind of make VP feel a little bit safe. And their target is Illidan, but he already senses this. Like, look how far back he is already. They're pinging him out. This is going to be a pretty significant dive, though, if they want to go for this.
It's quite dangerous to go for this kind of... They already see him with the rocket, but this is dangerous to try and make this sort of dive. Mad is looking to lead the charge here. Tops in. They're going to TP out, though. Illidan's going to be able to get ahead of any of these. Disable hook shot! Oh, just a half a second too late. And another smoke gank that doesn't go well for Alliance. Last time, all they got was really FNG. This time around, not a single hero, just a tower.
I think that's actually okay, though. I think Alliance's main goal was to trade for the towers, and so they're probably pretty happy with how that went. They are a little bit disappointed with, you know, they should have been able to get that kill if they coordinated it a little bit better, and they had to use the egg for that. And if you're a support Phoenix, you're not going to have a lot of opportunities to get the egg off.
Yeah, you can see that top tower. VP will be able to make the trade-off, and I'm sure TP back down to bottom to play defense here. The rest of Alliance are
I think
still...
he keep going.
go to tier 2, force Alliance back on the defensive.
You have the global, you know that the egg is down, you know that the clockwork hook is down as well,
True.
and Alliance isn't in a position to get more than a tier 1 out of this, because it is a clockwork here at this bottom lane, so they'll trade a tier 1 for a tier 2, and if you're a lineup that's trying to snowball like this, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, especially since they've got that fresh glyph from the tier 1 tower going down at the bottom lane. It even stalls up Alliance quite a bit. You could see that tier 2 tower is definitely going to be falling here. Alliance are not making that rotation to try and play defense, and as you said, it's primarily because cooldowns.
Yeah, and at this top lane, Pycat has the regen. He might actually run into this courier as well if he's patient, but it'll just fly by, and he actually sees it. Is he going to go for it?
It's going to cost him a lot of mana, and you have to be jumping into potentially all of VP, so he decides against it, and Illidan does pick up his first Staff of Wizardry going into that Rod of Atos.
Yeah, and so now Lil is rotated down to this bottom lane. He should feel pretty safe because this ward's going to spot out the Alliance members as they walk out. But all spells are up for Alliance, and Matt is starting to pick up some farm as he has the Ogre Club at the same time. Loda should be going for BKB of his own. I think BKB is going to be the item choice for most of the people.
Oh, the silence goes on. Pycat's actually surrounded. He gets off the invis, but the counter ward is there, and Pycat will go down 3-4 now. Still in the favor, at least in kills, to Alliance, but you look at that net worth and experience, and it is definitely VP's favor.
Yeah, and it's just because they can actually have heroes outside the map. Alliance do have good ward vision, and it looks like they're going to go for
That's going to come in for a big egg, but he already gets telekinesis up. Maybe? No, he gets off the egg in time before the stuns come in. Now the egg's going to be focused, but the rest of Alliance are in a good position to win this fight. God is already down. Pycat barely survives through that one. What a winter's curse from Lil! He might just turn this fight. There goes the death word. Okay, letting it go. There's no stuns to be able to stop him. He's going to be able to die here from DK Phobos, but at least he gets out some damage. The problem is the rest of Alliance are already down, and Loda is the only one who survives. It looks like a TP out will be successful, but what a turnaround there from VP with the egg already laid out and the SF down. It looked like Alliance were looking good to be able to win that fight, but Lil with just a beautiful Winter's Curse, most notably catching the Storm Spirit.
It was the Winter's Curse, and it was also G's sacrifice. He says to himself, okay, I'm probably going to die in this fight. What can I do? Just go for the egg all out. If we can kill the egg, then my team, no matter what, will have the advantage. They know that the Storm is down during that time as well. Just a beautiful fight by them I mean, that was just so well played by VP. That was self-sacrifice at its best from a team.
God, well, he's got sacrifice to spare. Look at him. He's still top of the net. We're 7,600 over Loda, who hasn't quite hit that 7K marker. And obviously, this gives Illidan some time. He's got 5.8. Usually, silencers, they don't really have a good way as a carry to be able to pick up a lot of farm, unless you're just fighting a bunch and happen to be picking up kills. This is why we occasionally see Midas on a silencer. But because he's feeling early pressure, Rod of Atos is preferable here. But where do you go as your second item? Do you opt for an all-in late-game item, or are you actually going to be able to pick up the farm necessary to grab that item like a Scythe of Ice by, 25, 30 minutes?
I think you go for the BKB. You've already heavily committed to the early game with G going to go for the mechanism, and he's going to go for BKB on his own. And so the late game might actually even favor Alliance here. It depends on what Pycat opts to go for. I think he should start to realize in these fights that maybe BKB is the option because he is going to struggle against the Global Silence. But the Winter's Curse is there as well, and so if he goes for the BKB, it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you go for the BKB, then the Winter's Curse hits you, and it makes it null. But if you don't go for the BKB, then the Global Silence or the Rubik Lift is there to kill you just as fast.
So Virtus Pro, once they finish up their BKB on both G as well as potentially Illidan, then they're going to have a huge increase of power in team fights, and then they could probably just go for a lot of 5-banning, right? Look to take to the tier 2s at that point, but that's still for another at least 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's actually what I would go for if I was VP. Once you get the BKB on just the Shadow Fiend, like you don't have to wait for it on Illidan at all. You just need one frontliner. DK Phobos isn't going to get any items anytime soon, and so I think the effect is just try to take out all the tier 1s and tier 2s, and then just try to go high ground with the next Roshan. Is most likely the option for VP, because they don't really have the best pick-off potential. Like, they have to commit so much to be able to kill the Storm Spirit. You have to use the global. You have to have at least 2 heroes with you at the same time. So I think if you're VP, the safer thing to do is use the global instead of pickoffs. Try to force fights.
All right, well, they do have that global up, and it looks like they want to take this tier 1 tower at bottom lane. And depending on how well this fight goes, they may just be able to take a tier 2 out of it as well, and that'll be pretty much straight BKB. In fact, just the tier 1 tower will be BKB for God. Before the 20-minute marker, he is incredibly farmed. But Alliance, they're not going to give up this tower without a fight. It looks like Admiral Bulldog looking to make the jump here. Global Silence goes out. Admiral Bulldog already dead, and the Icicle Shards has actually blocked out most of Alliance. Ake's going to be slowed down here. The Snowball will catch him. Quickly surrounded. Pycat jumping in on the background, going for Illidan as quick as possible. The egg is laid out. The egg will be exploding here. God can't stop it in time. Gets a double stun on Illidan and God. Gonna be able to blow them both up, and VP lose the fight. DK Phobos gets away, just barely. But only 2 go down on the side of Alliance, and VP lose a full 4.
And that's such a huge commitment by them. They didn't have the SFBKB either, and Pycat just got a huge infusion of gold. He had that DD ready. Loda ends up with the triple kill, and the best thing for Loda right now is he's not opting to go for the quick BKB. He's going to go for the SNY, and this just leaves more room for Alliance to grow. And beautiful fight by them, and I think an overcommitment by VP. They saw the clockwork come in. They thought the rest of Alliance was going to follow up. They blow the global silence, and from there, the fight is so simple for Alliance.
Mad making a quick dive away, should be fine. VP can't really catch up. So 9-10 right now on the scoreboard. It's hitting the 19-minute marker. You could see VP have now dropped that bit of a gold and experience advantage that they had in the early game, and we're entering into an even game now.
Yeah, and VP's lineup, if you're VP, you have to be a little bit worried with how that engagement went. But I think they should improve the next fight. They just have to say, we have to be a little bit more patient with the global silence.
Right.
Because it's such a key spell. If you don't have it up, you can't push. If you have it up, you have to use it so well against Alliance. So when Bulldog goes in, you can't just be right there with the trigger. You have to wait for Pycat at all times.
Mm-hmm. All right, Virtus Pro. Well, this is an interesting maneuver here. Let's see what happens. God is still farming up that jungle. Meanwhile, the rest of Alliance are actually doing something similar here on the Radiant side. Got Loda now building into that BKB. It looks like Alliance may have some sort of idea what's going on.
Yeah, they're going to fire the Clockwork Rocket in, and
Yeah, there it is. They know Roshan's up now. And
looks like they want to contest.
yeah, but they may be a little bit too late here. Roshan already down to 2.5K. And it looks like, unless Matt and Pycat manage to make some sort of dive in, this should be Roshan going into their favor. God's already picked up the Aegis. Alliance deciding against the fight for now. Despite the fact that the Aegis is picked up, they could potentially still go for a fight like that, based on the fact that just close in on the Roshan pick could be a good fight for Alliance, especially with the Phoenix. But they decide a little bit more conservatively. They've already won one fight and brought it back to an even game. No need to push it.
If you're Alliance here, you're just waiting for fights like that again, where they overcommit with the global silence, and then you have more room to grow. If you notice what Alliance are doing right now, they're fanning across the map. They realize they don't want to fight into the Shadow Fiend Aegis just yet, and you notice Pycat's just power farming right now for that Bloodstone. The rest of the lineup as well is doing the same. Loda's just going to go for that BKB before this next engagement, and that's all that matters for Alliance right now.
Right.
Fight for the big fight. You don't have to get into skirmishes for your towers. Your towers are essentially just lives for you.
Alliance start grouping up as 3, but it looks like they're just going to play defense around the tier 3 tower. Sure enough, the tier 2 does go down. Now, Virtus Pro, actually, let's go back to the Phoenix real quickly. He picked up an Ogre Club, almost has a straight BKB. A lot of times against Silencers, we see Yules picked up instead. What do you think about the difference of opinion here from Mad going for the more expensive BKB?
I think if he goes for the BKB, it wouldn't be... I think he actually needs it, because you're up against a Rubik, you're up against the Silencer as well. The Silencer especially just destroys your hero. Like,
yeah.
No matter what happens in the fight, you have to get the Supernova off, and so I think this is a really smart decision by Mad, and I think it's an even better decision by Alliance to try to give him a little bit of farm, and VP once again...
Oh no, that's Rocket! It spotted out VP, it looks like, as they smoked up. I believe that landed just before the smoke popped, but we'll see what VP are able to do with this anyway. Want to bring up another notable item pickup. DK Phobos actually now has a Blink Dagger. This is really critical for VP now being able to get better initiations, but also counter initiations. A Blink Dagger and a toss means that you can blink in and save your allies with Snowball, especially when you've got so much single target focus from Alliance. That could be big.
I'm almost certain the play is wait for the Phoenix to use his egg and then just hop into the bunker with into the snowball and save your teammates. I don't know how feasible that's going to be.
Okay.
But that'd be kind of cool to see, and G's going to beat around this mid tower. He does have the double damage rune, and I don't think Alliance want to fight this as the DD's up. Like, that's plus 200 damage. Like, there's no way you approach that.
They didn't go for the last tier 2 fight, and that wasn't a double damage SF, so it looks like they're going to give it up again. Virtus Pro just bringing that gold lead back up into their favor, slowly but surely through towers. That is all outer towers now down for Alliance, and VP are actually now going to poke uphill with his double damage. As it fades, they will back themselves away. Looks like they're not going to go uphill just yet. You said wait on second Roshan and potentially the next item from the silencer. What about God? He's got 3.5k.
I think going for a butterfly is probably a really good option. You just need to be able to take out the egg as fast as possible once you BKB. So the butterfly is an alright option. Even going for something like... I'm not actually sure. I think the last time I saw him build a Silver Edge, but I don't think that would help him at all this game.
Yeah.
So I think a butterfly is the item.
Yeah, especially like the evasion obviously being pretty critical against a hero like Bloodseeker, whose right clicks are kind of dangerous, especially once he has his own BKB. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's an option.
I think if you go for the Manta, you have high ground potential. If you go for the Scotty, you're probably a little bit better in fights.
Right. Oh, here comes another big item. It's a support item, but Lil almost has that Glimmer Cape, and I think most people know the power of Winter Wyvern. When you have a Glimmer Cape, that means you're able to throw out that Cold Embrace, defend them from physical damage, and then throw the Glimmer Cape to defend them from magic damage as well. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, and Bulldog setting up at top. She's about to lose that Aegis, though, so they have to be a little bit worried, and Alliance are just trying to stall out as long as they can, maybe even giving up this tower if they have to, but VP don't want to hard commit for this, because if they lose this fight, that's just another 2 minutes that you give Alliance to farm, maybe even longer, and then from there, Alliance can go for the Roshan fight.
Yeah, it looks like that Aegis takedown timer is cutting it a little bit close for VP. So they don't want to be too far forward inside the enemy base when that Aegis does go down. So they back themselves away, just continuing to farm up. And they've got so much control right now. Alliance are pretty much stuck inside of their base for the time being. You could even see God, that middle lane and bottom lane are both pushing out, but God just cuts that middle lane in half. And someone I'm sure is going to be farming up bottom next.
And they have to be this worried, Cap, because if the Storm Spirit goes down, he opted to go for the Bloodstone first. He has to get as many charges as he can in the next fight to be able to do anything, and you don't want to get picked off before the fight happens. He doesn't have buyback. He does have the 8 Bloodstone charges, so he'll respawn at a reasonable time, but you don't want to immediately use it getting picked off.
Right.
So I think if you're Pycat, I think you have to be the one to split push because Bulldog's actually playing the Clockwork role, who's not really a farmer. Like, he's still only level 9 at 25 minutes into the game.
There goes that Aegis. Gets popped, and the ultimate orb being picked up. So Scotty or Manta, you said one or the other. You want to try and back that up with a solid choice. Is it Scotty here and just going all stats? Well, there's our
Scotty.
Ultimate orb being picked up, so just raw stats out from our SF.
Yeah, and Pycat, what I like from Alliance right there is that they timed out the Aegis, obviously, and so they go for the immediate smoke as the Aegis fades, but unable to find anything, and they're just going to go tail between their legs, go back to the base, try to defend up. Pycat is in vision right now, but nobody is close to him from VP, and it looks like they just want to kind of be around that area. He's going to go for this bottom rune right now, and he has to be careful as 3 heroes. They do have the Blink and the Glimmer Cape.
Yeah, TK Phobos.
Oh, they know he's there. They play the ward as well.
They see him. Icicle Shards to lead, but Pycat has more than enough mana to be able to get away from that one. It had to be a blink-in punch in order to lead that one out, and unfortunately VP not getting quite close enough to be able to lead that one. And we just go right back to farming, which VP, I mean, they've got a plan here. We've got BKB coming up on the Silencer, Scotty soon on the Shadow Fiends. This is VP getting a gigantic economic advantage, it feels like, on just their 2 cores. Like, overall, the lead is not that significant for Virtus Pro, but both the SF and Silencer are out-farming their counterparts pretty heavily.
For me, what's important, though, is the XP is nearly 0, and even with the significant tower lead and the Roshan, Alliance are still only behind by 3k gold. Like, 3k gold is easily doable. You're going to get this top tower and cut that in half, and all the BKBs are flying in now. Loda has one for the next fight, Mad has one as well, and if you're VP, I think you're actually kind of hesitant to go in without the Aegis. And I think if you're Alliance, even fighting at the Roche pit might not be a bad idea, because you do have a Storm with Bloodstone charges. He can come back in. Loda has a BKB as well. There's not a whole lot of physical damage because most of VP opted to actually play incredibly defensively. Like, there's a BKB on both their cores. A mech's going to go on the SF. He doesn't actually have too much damage for them to have to worry about.
Now, because both teams have actually run through most of their early smokes, there's only 1 or 2 left here. It seems like we're not going to come down to pickoffs, but actually a full team fight. Now, what does VP need to do? What kind of initiation do they need to make in order to win that fight? And same goes for Alliance.
I think if you're Alliance, you just have to jump on them. Right. And if you're VP, you can't let your silencer get initiated on, because what'll happen is he'll most likely panic hit the global silence button, and Alliance just have to disengage or pop their own BKBs, and they can get into a really good fight. Right. Whatever they do, Matt has to get a perfect egg off for them to win this fight. Like, they're not too far behind, but if a really bad egg happens, then I feel like Alliance just loses fight in the top. This is what I'm talking about.
The initiation does happen, but Illidan does have a save. Snowball already going out. Winter's Curse laid down onto Loda. The global silence, there it goes. It goes out now as they fight up against Admiral Bulldog, but Loda's trying to right-click him down. There goes the egg, but God and Illidan are going to turn, take that one out, and Loda already at half HP, trying to go for the kill to support, but Pycat takes it instead. He doesn't get that regeneration now. Lil drops a bit low, but Pycat just jumps out, unable to make that commitment. A 1-for-3 exchange to the favor of VP. Is that enough for them to be able to push uphill within this next 50 seconds?
Definitely. At the very least, you force the buybacks, and I mean, if you're VP, you're going to be so satisfied when you realize that the Bloodseeker doesn't have one. The lane is decently pushed in. There's not a whole lot that Alliance can do about this, and they did go for the smart play. They went for Illidan, but the rest of the team wasn't there, and I think they got just a little bit too overeager. They didn't have the damage to bring him down, and Alliance, now with 3 heroes dead and only the Rubik dead on the side of VP, they have a lot of options here. They could even go for the Roshan immediately after this, and it's going to be hard-pressed for Alliance to stop the next push.
All right, leading uphill, 15 seconds until the Bloodseeker is back up. We know there is no buyback, but VP, we're hoping to be able to force it out. Now they're going to make the jump here. Pycat grabs onto God. Pycat jumping to the side to dodge some of the incoming damage. The Glimmer Cape does help God. And the hook shot in. He's going to be able to lock 2 inside those cogs. That's a good initiation from Admiral Bulldog. The laser goes out. Illidan dropping low. The Winter's Curse and the save is there. The snowball, sure enough, goes up. Now the ultimate from God. Already taken out Admiral Bulldog. The Phoenix goes down as well. But Loda sees a lot of squishy heroes. He cleans up one. Goes now. God is low, but Illidan doesn't want to try and fight it. Monster, Loda. He's trying to back himself away. Phobos dropping low telekinesis, and Loda's going to be caught here. VP win the fight yet again. I really thought they would be able to turn on to God because he was half HP, but they decide against it, and sure enough, Loda couldn't get out in time. Now VP going uphill once again.
Yeah, and with both the BKBs down, I thought that was definitely going to be their fight to take. Alliance realized that's the best opportunity for them. They don't have global, and Pycat's just trying to buy a little bit of time.
Yeah, he's just doing the ball lightning throw out to try and get a little bit of damage, but God just doesn't care. He's going to keep on steamrolling through these buildings, and Alliance will lose their first lane of racks, it seems. Alliance now jumping in. God actually dropping quite low. Winter's Curse gets laid out. Catches 2. Snowball as well to save the SF. They're going to come out soon on top of Admiral Bulldog inside of the cogs, but God is still able to turn and fight a little bit, but he ends up going down. Now DK Phobos trying to get out. The explosion of the SF brought Pycat low, but not enough for Phobos to turn this one. Will be just chased away. 3 go down on the side of VP, and Alliance hold for the time being. They kept their melee racks alive, and that's the critical one.
They have to go for the Roshan right now. There's no time. The next fight, if you give up another Roshan to the Shadow Fiend, VP are just going to steamroll your base. And I feel like Alliance, even if you don't feel like you have the damage, I think it has to be your goal right now, because if you give up the Aegis, I think this game just ends. But if you take the Aegis, maybe you force VP to be a little bit more hesitant, and the Aegis will pretty much cancel out the need for a BKB on Pycat. Because the global silence, you can just die, revive, you'll be useful with full mana, and I think this is the play. Like, even if you think VP will contest you, they only have 3 heroes up. You don't really have the damage, yeah, but this is still the correct play by Alliance right now.
Yeah, fortunately, Blood Rage is going to help him out a bit in taking down Roshan, and it seems like VP are not moving over to contest. Taking a look at some upcoming items here. We've got a Blink Dagger now on Lil. He's already gotten out some really good Winter's Curses. I love the last warning where he put it on a creep just to be able to control both Admiral Bulldog as well as Pycat. Pycat especially, when he jumps into that Winter's Curse, he's instantly disabled. It was such a critical play from Lil to be able to save that team fight. So now with the Blink Dagger up, it's going to add even more to the next team fight. He can sit a lot farther back and not have to worry about his positioning as much.
And something I really want to highlight, Cap, is that DK Phobos has been on point this entire game.
Yes.
4-3-9, a completely acceptable score. But what he's been doing to save his team with the snowballs and prolonging the fights as long as possible for Virtus Pro has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you almost feel like you got to give prompts for DK Phobos in playing some excellent support plays. It seems like his task has actually been most critical in these fights when he's making those saving snowballs rather than trying to offensively initiate.
Yeah, and I think that's the right idea because VP have built up enough of a farm lead that all you have to do is protect your cores from instantly getting initiated on.
Right.
And now G opts to go for the Eagle Song, and I think this is the right idea. You just need to kill the egg as fast as possible. You can nullify Mad, who's still only level 14. No real aspirations to get the level 3 egg on him anytime soon. And Alliance, though, they bought themselves some time with this Aegis, and I think that was the correct play. Go for the Aegis, stall up the game as long as you can, force VP to overextend, and if you take a look at Pycat, all of a sudden, 13 Bloodstone charges. Like, I think 14 is the sweet spot number that I just made up in my head as a Storm player.
Why do you think he went Yules over the BKB? We saw the opposite reaction from Mad against the Global Silence, right? There are two different plays, Yules and BKB, generally thought of. Why do you think we see Yules on the Storm Spirit, despite the fact he actually is getting quite a large number of Bloodstone charges and has some good mana regen?
Oh, I think that's a really easy choice. Like, you need a little bit more than what the BKB will provide. Like, you get more mana regen out of the Yule Scepter. You got 10 intelligence. The 40 move speed actually means a lot to the Storm Spirit. And the cooldown on the Yules is so low that I think that he can just continue to fight even if the Global Silence is down. And so I think it's a smart choice. It allows him to snowball a little bit more in this game than the BKB would. Like, the BKB just kind of sets you at neutral, whereas the Yule Scepter allows you to snowball a little bit more. And Pycat with this DD rune, I think the correct play right now is to try to go for a pickoff, and at top, they are rotating a lot of heroes in, but he should be able to spot this and just get out.
Yeah, mass TPs go out, and they will end up... Oh, Illidan actually popped his BKB there. That's unfortunate. Another charge down. I guess he thought there was going to be greater initiation from Alliance, and there actually was.
Trade a Rupture for a BKB charge. Take that every single day.
Absolutely. Another thing I want to go back to with that Yule Scepter, you know, we don't really actually have a whole lot of disables on the side of VP outside of that Global Silence. We've got Telekinesis and everything DK Phobos brings.
Oh, this chicken?
Oh, that chicken barely gets away.
Pycat actually wants to go for it, but God says, hello, you want my chicken? Come get it. Let's play some chicken, darling. There goes the Aegis, and now they might just catch him a second time. The ultimate goes off a little bit too early. Waller's Punch goes up, and Pycat is down 2 in a row.
And wow, I think he should have at least popped the DD if he was going to go for that. And once you see the first attempt not happen, I think Pycat just has to get out of there. But I think he got a little bit too overzealous, and he's like, okay, this is pretty much tower gold for my team. I have the Aegis. They're probably not 5-manning, but he has to anticipate this from VP. Because all VP have to do is hold the line, not get picked off. And this is how you play against a Storm to frustrate him. Stick together at all times, have each other's backs, and they're just right there to get the turnaround, and they've got the Global Silence up as well. Pycat instantly respawns from the Bloodstone, though.
All right, so we got some new items here coming in for Alliance. They lost Pycat, but they are going to be picking up Ashivas quite soon from Mad, and we do have that fresh BKB out from Admiral Bulldog as start. Ake is trying to build into that Aghanim Scepter, and we know what a big upgrade that can be. Unfortunately, he's only halfway there.
Yeah, and he's going to go for the Bracer build. Like, he originally went for the Bracer build thinking that this game was over. He's like, I need as much HP as I possibly can, but now he's opting to go for the Aghanim Scepter, and this is the correct choice. Just play for the late game if you're Alliance. And Matt is actually the one going for the split push, and if you notice, they're just trying to stall out as long as they can. Force 1 or 2 heroes back, reset the game. And like I talked about, if you're playing against a Storm Spirit with a Bloodstone, just don't let him snowball. You're 5-manning at all times, or you're 4-1-ing. And so that means Alliance can go for a little bit of split push, as long as they don't send a hero that's really important. Right. Like, sending Mad there is the perfect choice, because if you send Loda there, or Pycat even, then it's worth it to just 3-man and all in for that kill.
Yeah. And as you can see, VP are not willing to make that much of a defense. They're trying to pick him off. Loda ends up getting caught here. The snowball, locking him in place. They do have the Scotty on him, so even the BKB is not going to be enough to save him, and they're right outside the BP base. They're going to force Alliance into a buyback.
Yeah, and he's absolutely going to have to go for this if he wants this Rax to live. And I don't even know if this is a good fight for them. The Global Silence is still up by Illidan and G, just beating away at that Rax with that butterfly. I don't really know how Alliance is going to fight this. Pycat does have buyback.
Oh, there goes Oakshot. Jump in on Illidan. They're going to try and take him out first with a blade mail, but already the A goes down, and God just keeps on focusing it. There's no stopping it. He now pops the ultimate, gets laid out. The damage reduction is going to help out quite a bit. Admiral Bulldog and Ake both end up falling. Pycat and Loda are still going to try and take this fight, though. FNG being the first target. Zip away from Pycat, away from that Walrus Punch, but God just keeps on breaking down that melee rack. Now the snowball to be able to save him. They right-click down Loda nice and quick. He's not getting anywhere. Pycat gets silenced up and he goes down as well. Even Matt getting caught after the dive. Pycat coming back with a buyback, trying to take on God, but he's just too damn big. Pycat now has to go all the way back to the fountain, and VP will not lose hardly anything for that fight.
Yeah, and they forced out so many buybacks on the side of Alliance, even Bloodseeker having to commit to that, Pycat at the same time, even buying himself a mango, expecting the fight to continue, thinking that the game had to be saved at that moment, but Shadow Fiend with the butterfly against the Storm Spirit, that wins every single time. Is the Storm Spirit doesn't have enough attack speed to proc through that, and he relies so much on his right click with that overload. So the butterfly against Storm Spirit, it's miserable, Cap. It's one of the worst situations that you want to be in because you don't want to go for a third item MKB. You need more mana regen. And so I think this was such a smart choice by G. VP now, they know that the buybacks are on cooldown for Alliance. They go for this push. If they win it, this should be the game.
There goes that BKB out for the silencer. Managed to force it, but look at the item he just grabbed. The Scythe of Ice. Pycat, he may pay for it the next time he tries to jump Illidan like that.
That means that Eul Scepter does nothing now.
Yep.
And so the BKB might have been the better option, but I don't think he expected that fight to go the way it did, and he has to be so careful rolling in because if he gets caught out by the Hex, I think he just goes down immediately.
Emerald Bulldog looking for the initiation on the side here. They've got to force it soon with the Bloodseeker back up. They're ready to go, but the range Frax is about to fall anyway. And the melee Rax down to half health.
Oakshot misses. They're going to try and jump on. Pycat already going for God. The Death Ward gets laid out as long with the Rupture, but God just walks himself away and now turns on Admiral Bulldog in the back. Pycat going for Illidan, trying to take him on, but he's just too big as well. Even Loda is forced away after getting a support kill. They jump away from the egg here. Eul Scepter going down on Pycat. Now the silence gets laid out. Pycat's got nowhere to run to. Loda trying to force him out, but he's not going to be able to get in either. Loda runs himself away, but DK Phobos with the blink finishes them off. Mad, the only one left alive, and that is going to be the death knell for Alliance. All going down, a total wipe, and Virtus Pro will walk away with game number 1.
Yeah, and absolutely flawless by them. If you notice, against a team that relied heavily on pickoffs, they just kept the pace going, even with that early start that Alliance had. They kept their composure. They said, okay, we'll just play objective gaming, and it won't matter what you can do with your split push.
All right, Virtus Pro, man, that was a beautiful game number 1, and I think, well, we saw from both the analysts as well as the just the